And hello everybody, welcome. I'm Tom Vassell, and with me today is who?
Travis Chance.
Alrighty, I'm trying to put in a little.
You forgot to say my best friend.
I apologize for not lying for you there, but Travis is with a company that he started actually called Dream Pop. Can you tell us a little bit of what that is?
Yeah, so for those of you who do not know me, I've worked in games since about 2012, 2013. I was a publisher. I've done game design. I've done primarily game development and game design. And I most recently ran a company called Colossal Games. Before that, I worked at Indie Boards and Cards. Before that, I owned a company called Action Phase Games, which you may know from Aeon's End or Kodama. And I've started a consultancy, a game consultancy, where I work for publishers, helping them put out games in a number of capacities. So kind of publishers hire me to be a publisher for them.
Alrighty, that sounds cool. And if people want to get in touch with you, where would they go?
They can hit me up on Facebook, or they could email me at travis@dreampop.cc.
Alrighty, so we're here, folks. If you've never been to one of these, first of all, we do this every night at 9 p.m. Secondly, these are here just to be fun, to talk, to answer questions. Travis has some really good taste in board games and also some really bad taste in board games. But he definitely has opinions. A lot of publishers I've run into have always been very kind to their competitors' games. Travis is not always quite so much, which I like, because I like when people tell me what they think about games. And there is a lot of great games out there, but there's also a lot of bad ones. But that's not the point. We're here to talk about anything. Favorite ice cream flavors, favorite games with 4 players. I don't know if we're doing lists, but if you have any questions, you can ask them. We may or may not answer them on the show, so go ahead and start asking questions. Nick says he's never seen you without glasses.
I've never seen him without my glasses on. So. Yeah, I'm wearing contacts here in Florida. It's starting to get summertime, so sunglasses are becoming a little more of a necessity. And I did the quarantine haircut. I was getting a little shaggy, and I've been talking about wanting to cut my hair really short for a long time. So
I said I wasn't going to shave my beard until this is over, and my daughter said, "You look like those people," and I was like, "What people?" She's like, "Amish, I think." I was like, "Yeah, okay." Maybe
yeah,
I will shave it.
I see it. It's not a bad look. You work it. You're very.
You criticize my look
style.
every time we go. Do you like the hat?
I like the hat. That's a tasteful hat. No. Sometimes I'll watch a review of Tom, and I'll pause it and take a picture, and I'll send a text to Tom and ask him what he was thinking. So
yes, very
it's
nice.
nothing. It's nothing personal. I like that you have your own thing. I think that's cool.
If I was upset about people mocking my dress code, I wouldn't be able to read the comments of my YouTube videos. All right, so Martin says, what are you guys looking for in new games?
Well, I'm not publishing anymore, so.
I know, but okay. So a new game comes to play. What are you looking for?
Oh, to play? What kind of games am I looking to play right now? My tastes have changed a lot. I honestly, I really enjoy simple, and I want an experience. I think the days of grindy, big, complex, intellectual style games, not really for me anymore. I want to be able to sit down. I want there to be something memorable, like a cinematic moment, even if it's something awful. I can't believe that awful thing happened to me. I want a memory of the game. I don't want to go. I felt like I pulled a bunch of levers and turned a bunch of knobs and hit a bunch of buttons, and then a victory point came out of a slot. That's not interesting to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I don't know. I'm looking for something that's different, but also something that's streamlined. This lack of streamlining with a lot of new games bothers me. I can't tell how many times I get a rule book out. I get about halfway through and I'm just exhausted, just from trying to figure out the game.
Yeah.
Also, man, if there was ever a job in the industry that is up for grabs, it's that rule book writing. Some people can do it, but most people on earth cannot.
I've written 3 rule books in the last week, but you've given me criticisms on some of the rule books I've written. So
I have never criticized Travis on anything, unlike
the Mezzo rule book. The Mezzo rule book.
Hey, Mike Delisio has been playing that recently and enjoying it, so maybe he'll do a solo thing of that soon.
It's a cool game. I actually, the solo for that, like, we just kind of happened into an idea for it, and it just worked really well. The solo game is like its own game. Like, it could just be a standalone experience. It's really cool. It's something I'm pretty proud of that we did. Really neat. There's lots of weird questions coming in, Tom. Like, what should Tom's first tattoo be?
Anyway, so it says, hey, Tom, I'm putting the questions up here. Got an idea for a video series. You flip through old board game magazines and comment on the articles and games. Maybe. I don't have many. When I'm done with a magazine, I throw it away.
You don't have a bunch of duelists?
No, I don't have anything. I mean, oh, no.
Scry?
I have is it here? It might be at work. I have my first magazine article that I was printed. My mom actually kept a copy of that. My mom always thought my job was stupid. I wonder if I have it around here somewhere. Maybe not. I thought I kept it because it was like a memorable moment for me. Yeah, here it is. Did you ever read this magazine, Knucklebones?
No.
Yeah, this was a board game magazine. This is, does it have a date in it here? 2005. I don't remember what month. And it was actually a pretty good magazine. I really liked it. And in here, I think I wrote a review of Origins.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was like so pleased by it. Yeah, there it is. Origins 2005 by Tom Vassell. So this is the one magazine I've kept. Man, I wrote all kinds of stuff in here that's probably not even true anymore. Several new games are released by companies each year. What pros? I said, why this prolification of American companies and games probably won't last. I said, some companies I talked to made dire predictions about the future. I can tell you what company that was. That was Jolly Roger Games. He was always dire about the future. Jim Dietz, you ever meet him?
Yeah. That's hilarious.
I mentioned out-of-the-box games. They're gone. Z-Man had Brief Encounter. Days of Wonder had Shadows over Camelot. And I saw Richard Garfield there and Alan Moon. Yeah. Well, anyway. Sorry. I'm bragging.
That's
Let's
cool.
go here. But that is the only magazine
cool.
I kept. I always throw them away because I think I do like the idea of like reefing through magazines, old magazines, and that's a fun thing to do. But I don't know that it's worth the keeping boxes of old magazines around. Do you have like old magazines around?
No, I mean, like every once in a while, like I have an interview I did for a bigger tabletop magazine, like a video game / tabletop gaming magazine I did for Western Legends, and it was like a 4-page spread and had a big bio, and so that one's nice. I kept that one.
Oh,
I've
sure.
got,
no, I'm not talking about the ones that you're in. I'm talking about like any magazines that you've gotten. Do you hang on to them?
No, not really. I mean, I get like, what's the one that Alliance puts out, the GTM or Game Trader magazine? Yeah, I get those all the time, and I used to kind of like, I'd read articles and I'd keep them around, but then they start to kind of build up,
Well, also a lot of that, the GTM magazine, if you've not seen it, a lot of it's just prices of games. It's a huge catalog.
Yeah.
So a good chunk of it's not worth it. I always felt like, and this was all due deference, I always felt that the people who wrote the reviews and stuff in those were not writing to me. They're writing to store owners, and so I would often disagree with the results of those. They were always almost, I don't know that I ever read a negative review in any of those either. I don't think I've once read a negative review in that magazine. Because they're trying to sell the games to people. All right.
No, I can see that.
I'll give you your tattoo question. What tattoo should Tom get?
Oh man, Tom, I think you got to get a tattoo of like you yourself. Like that would be the best. You're a dice guy.
Well, okay, we've talked about that. Mike DeLisio keeps pushing. Like when we were in Vegas, he was trying to get some people to do it. He didn't ask me, which is good because I'm always teetering there. I'm pretty sure my wife does not want me to get a tattoo, but I always said if I got a tattoo, I put it on my shoulder, and since I've never wear short sleeves, no one would ever see it.
Sure.
If I did one, it would either be the Dice Tower logo or one of the Dice guys, or like the panda, or something like that. The thing about tattoos is I always hesitate on them because if I don't like this hat, if I get tired of this hat, I can just get rid of it. If I don't like my haircut, I can change it. Tattoos are, I know they're not permanent, but they're pretty close.
Well, I mean, I've got tattoos I don't like anymore. The key is that you just get so many that you forget that it's there. There are days where there are literal days where I wake up and there's literal days like I sleep like this, with my head on my arm. And there are days where I wake up and I open my eyes and I see my arm and I'm like, I have to remember that it's my arm. I'm like, oh God. Okay, yeah, I did all that 20 years ago. I made all those awful choices. It is a bit jarring, but it's one of those things too. It's kind of like, I see what you're saying. I feel like in some ways I'm wearing like a bad long sleeve Hawaiian shirt for the rest of my life or something.
Sure, and again, I'm not criticizing anyone who gets tattoos. That's fine. It's just that for me, it's like a decision that I have to think about. My putting energy into a decision is equal to the length of time I live with that decision. So like when I got married, I thought a lot about that. That's something. But if I'm thinking about what I'm eating for dinner, whatever, just order something. A tattoo is more along the lines of it's a long-term decision. So I've been very cautious.
Yeah, for
about
sure.
it.
No, I get it. I mean, I think you're at a point in your life where you could get one because you think it would be cool, and there's also the kind of like, why bother, like at this point, why bother?
Well, the whole cool thing is past. My kids, again, they call me Amish.
Well,
suspenders
for yourself, right?
Yeah, if I got one, it would just be because I wanted to get one. Also, I'm kind of a wimp. I don't know that I want to go through that pain. Although I imagine it's not as painful as.
It's not that bad.
I could.
Like when a cat scratches you, that feeling, like that itchy kind of hot feeling of a cat scratching you. It's kind of like that, but you're deciding that you're just going to sit there and let that awful feeling continue to happen.
Is this an excuse to get a cat on the screen? I feel like that's where we were leading.
No. There's no cats in here right now.
All right, what's the first game?
I was fixing my charger.
What's the first game you look forward to playing with a group after quarantine? I'll be honest, I would play, at this point, Monopoly. I don't care. I would just be so happy to sit around a table with some people.
Yeah, I agree. I think tackle football maybe, just so I could feel like I had human contact at this point. Arm wrestling.
Full body suit armor.
Yeah. I still game quite a bit, and but it would be nice to play something with a bigger count and like a bigger player count. Like right now, like I'm doing development work, and like one of the games I'm working on is a game that plays like 5 to 8 players. Well, guess what? There's not 5 to 8 players in quarantine right now, so I have to kind of sit there and emulate. Even a game I worked on recently was 2 to 5 players, and at the 5 player, I had to kind of be a two versions of myself.
I can get 5, but they're not going to play.
Well, yeah. Yeah, you have a whole little army of playtesters there, which is lucky for you.
Well, it depends. I mean, it depends if they want to play. But the good news is that they're fairly bored at this point, so it's always easy for me to say, okay, it's a non-electronic day today, and what do you guys want to do? I have a board game anyone want to play, and they're like, yeah, sure, why not? I've lowered the options.
Yeah.
Right. This one here says, this person says, what skills are desirable in the board game industry? What are publishers looking for when hiring?
I answered in the comments.
Stop answering in the comments. We're going to get to these questions. Also, the comments are distracting you.
Okay, I didn't know that. I was trying to be polite. I think talent is obviously something. I think loyalty. I think work ethic. Talent's something you have or you don't have. I mean, you can certainly learn. For example, if you work for a publisher and they had a certain style of game that they were known for putting out. You could learn how to keep an eye out for that, or how to improve on those types of games. But I don't know. I mean, I think, it's like anything in life. It takes lots of people to make the world go round. And as I'm sure, Tom, you can vouch, like many people that work in this industry are here by virtue of personal connections, knowing people. They met someone somehow.
And when I talk to publishers about hiring people and things, there's a lot of factors involved beyond pure talent. Talent's obviously there, right? But when it comes down to talent, it doesn't matter if you're really talented. If your work ethic's not strong, that word will get around about that. The industry is pretty small, and everybody talks to each other. And also personableness, or what is it? Just the ability to get along with people. Because the industry is fairly small, you have to work with a lot of people. And if you don't get along with half the people in the industry, you're not very useful to me to hire.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a people-driven industry, and
it really is.
So being people-centric is, if you're hyper extroverted, grouchy, shy, you might, unless you're doing something that's back end.
Sure, like if you're the artist and you're doing art back, but you still have to work with people, right? You still have to work with the people in the company and such. And so, but it doesn't matter how much you love games. I get emails every once in a while. Someone's like, "How do I get into the board game industry?" Like, well, it doesn't work like that. It's not like there's like a list to get on. You just start making connections with people, and as time goes by, I'll be like, yeah, I met that guy at a couple conventions, or that's someone who emails me a lot, and it was about ordinary stuff, and it's networking is really what it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I did when I first started off. Before all this, I was a musician. I lived in New York City. I was a drummer. I played drums since high school, and I was lucky enough to be in bands that toured, and I didn't make a tremendous amount of money, but I made enough money that that's what I did, and I would do like little odd jobs here and there to kind of fill in the gaps. But I blew my shoulder out, and I mean, it was like a devastating life shift for me, where I'm like, you can't play drums anymore. It's just not an option. And I freaked out. I went back to school. I got like a desk job, and it was just awful. Like I tried to be like a guy that worked in an office, and in deference to my own nature. And the thing, I kind of stopped and I looked at my life, and I was like, man, like, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I was like, the only two things in my life that I've ever done is play games and play drums. Those were the only two things. And I was like, oh, I wonder if I could play games or make games for a living. And so I just put everything I had into making a game, and I went from there.
But see, what a lot of people don't realize, people get to the industry, they're like, I'll see this, it happens a lot. People say, I finally got my dream job. I've loved gaming, and I'm now working for this publisher, or I'm doing this, or I publish my own game, or design my own game, or whatever it is. And they get excited, and then once they start, they realize that even though there is the excitement of being in the industry, it's an actual job. You have to get up and do all kinds of stuff that are just, work. And
directly behind me is just a list of annoying things I have to do this week, like no matter what. Like those things have to happen, and none of them are fun.
Yeah, and I mean, all the time people come to me and say, oh, you have to play games all the time, which is true, for sure. But I spent a good chunk of days and stuff just doing blah. Like, I was so excited this past weekend, I got my inbox to 0. That's the first time that's happened all year.
Yeah.
And even now I'm looking at it, and there's 25 emails sitting there. Nope, 29. And I don't love doing that, but I do it because I love my job. So that supersedes. I can do that because that's part of a bigger thing I like.
Yeah, I think that, it's things that I'm good at, like things that I'm particularly good at. Like I'm good at the product portion of games. And that's all boring. That's like pricing and what materials you use, and hey, how can we figure out how to make this thing that costs 3 cents cost 2 cents? It's not a glamorous portion of the job, and it's not even anything I would have known that I was good at doing until I started doing this, and then I kind of figured out I have a knack for it. But and there's people who would hate to do that. I mean, like, we had a guy at my last job who did logistics, and I mean, I would rather shoot myself in the head with a harpoon gun than do logistics. And he like loved his job. He's like, oh, it's awesome. I can work with all these people all over the world, and I'm making sure. Like, he found a way to altruistically imagine like he was responsible for ushering the games that we made into the hands of the people who really wanted them, which I think is a really beautiful and cool way to look at it. But I mean, in my opinion, he sat and looked at a spreadsheet all day and like dealt with angry people, but he loved his job. So, you know, I think to each their own. There's lots of miserable, tedious nonsense, just like in any other job, just like washing dishes at home, vacuuming, doing your laundry,
which is why
all
I'm
that
saying
type
if you
of
don't
stuff.
have a strong work ethic, it doesn't matter how much you love the industry, you're going to have to work, just like every other job.
I can't tell you how many people I know that have jobs in this industry that are good, that are people who started off as volunteers or just gave out of the kindness of their heart. They showed up every year. They, you know, volunteers. I mean, volunteered in some form or fashion, or worked for no money or little money. One of the biggest things I always hear is like, well, you know, I'm a criminal defense attorney, but I'd really like to be a board game designer. Do you think I could find a way to clear like 120K year one so that I could make that shift with no hiccup in my income? It's like, no, you don't get to do something that you love that would be a dream job. Not to say that, I mean, being a criminal defense attorney is probably a bad analogy there. But, you know, whatever, I work in an office. I'm an office manager or something, and I don't like my job, but I'm paid well. You don't get to make that shift, have a job that you love, that you're excited to go to every single day, that has like dynamic workflow, work with interesting people, be creative, and make the same amount of money as a job that would be less exciting. Like, that's just not, you're going to have to take a wage cut. You're going to have to roll those dice. I mean, this is my third company I've started. I'm on my third one that I've started. I've been very fortunate, but it's a lot of work.
All right, what are the best things about Florida, or any things you aren't in love with? Now, Travis lives in Tampa. I live in near Miami, so we're on the opposite sides of Florida. For me, I love the weather. I know some people don't like the heat, but I like it. I don't love to be hot all the time, but I like the warm weather. I like the fact that it's green all the time. And I know some people don't like it, but I love where I live in South Florida. I love the diverse culture. There's just so much. You know, there's all different cultures. It's a big melting pot. I really enjoy that. I like fresh fruit all year round. Things I don't like, not a big fan of hurricanes, obviously, but I'd rather that than tornadoes, I suppose. I'm not a huge fan of bugs, and there's a decent amount down here. It's not as bad as people make it out to be, especially if you keep your house clean. And everything's pretty far apart. And I live near Miami, one of the biggest cities in Florida, and it's still pretty far apart. You want to go somewhere in Florida, you're going to drive. It always is interesting. I'll see people in meetups. They're like, yeah, I would like to go to that meetup, but it's 45 minutes away. And I'm thinking, that's pretty close. That's how things are in Florida. You know, I'll drive 45 minutes to go to a store and not even think about it, because things aren't that close here.
No, for sure. I mean,
how about you?
Orlando. So I grew up here. I'm from Indiana originally. My family moved here when I was 2, and I lived here from 2 until I was 19, and then I was gone the rest of the time until this last summer. It's nice to be around my family, my mom, my dad. I'm lucky enough that I saw my mom and my dad around, and my sisters, their kids, my grandmother. So that's super nice. It's nice to be able to do things like go run by the water. You know, it's a lot more inspiring when you're trying to do things like be active when the weather's pleasant and there's nice things to look at. I think, you know, I kind of had a grudge against Florida forever because I grew up here, and then I didn't start to appreciate it until I came back, and I kind of knocked that chip off my shoulder and started to see it a little bit more for what it was. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, there's some decidedly crazy people here. I can tell you, for having lived in Indianapolis and lived in Baltimore and lived in New York City, Indianapolis was pretty run-of-the-mill, ho-hum, pretty calm, not a lot of excitement going on there. And it's a big city. But here it's like every single day something wild, something crazy. I see something insane almost every single day. It feels like something crazy going on. I don't know if it's the weather or like you're saying, the diverse culture. It just puts a lot of different kinds of people all in the same place, and you get a cool outcome. It's nice being, even Tom, like all the live plays and stuff I did, it's nice being near you, being able to drive down where some people have to fly down and get a hotel and all that stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think Florida's nice. It's I went to high school in Orlando, and it's always hard to live in a place that other people are just visiting. It makes it feel like for you it's your home, and other people are kind of treating it like it's a turnstile they're walking through. That's always kind of a weird thing, but I like it now. Yeah.
All right. So someone here asked if you read comics, and you just said yes, which isn't very helpful. What kind of comics do you read?
I have always been a big comic book guy, but I will admit that I switched over to kind of trade paperbacks. When I had that boring, stodgy desk job I was talking about earlier, I was very well paid. And one of the things that I did was buy every trade paperback I ever wanted. So anything like all the old Alan Moore, the 80s, 90s stuff that was really, that was worth reading. So I've got just tons and tons of comic books. I used to be a huge X-Men fan, like Chris Claremont, X-Men, and Jim Lee and all that stuff. I don't really read that stuff anymore, but I still go back and reread things like Warren Ellis. I'm a big Warren Ellis fan, so Planetary, Authority, a lot of that British Avatar Press stuff that Warren Ellis does, I'm a big fan of. So Hellboy, I've always liked Hellboy a lot.
All righty.
Yeah.
What have you been watching recently? Any good movies or TV to recommend?
I watched Tiger King like everyone else. I watched it twice.
The thing I love about Tiger King is the very, very first line in the movie, or like the very first scene, he's like, I was in Homestead, Florida, at this big snake farm. And I was like, wait, what? Where is this place? I don't want to be near this place. I still don't know where this place is that he was talking about.
Yeah.
Homestead's not that big. It's got to be within like 10 miles of my house.
I think the guy opened with the the exotic and illegal animal trade. So I think you probably don't know where it is because they don't want you to know where it is. But I'm watching Ozark. What else? I've been rewatching like a lot of Survivor, which I really love that show. That was like a goal of mine, was to be on Survivor. I tried out 5 times. I got called back 4 times. And the last time I tried out was 2008, and the assistant producer literally called me back and said, you almost made it on the show. Try out again. I don't know if I've ever told you this story, and I'll make the language family friendly. They're like, well, hey, you almost made it on the show. You were almost the butthole of the season. And I go, oh. They're like, yeah, so you should try out again. And I said, great. And I go, how many people tried out? And they're like, 50,000. And I go, so out of 50,000 people, I was the second biggest jerk. And she's like, yeah, you should totally try out again. And I never tried out again after that. It was for the Tocantins season with, and the guy they picked over me was, I don't know if you watched Survivor, Tyson. They told me they picked over me. So I never tried out again. That like randomly discouraged me.
Well, good. A wake-up call.
I know. I want to be the biggest jerk. I don't want to be the second biggest jerk. Come on. This was back in my New York days, my New York drummer days, though. So I was a very different character. Still the same, but different.
Oh, please don't start emailing me people to fill my inbox. That's boo. Boo, boo, boo.
Yeah, no.
Let's see here. Do you like the trend? People already know my opinion on this, so I'll ask you. Do you like the trend of technology integrating with board games, or does it hurt the industry more than help it?
I'm actually working on a app game now, and I had to do a ton of research in order to do this. And I got to tell you, like most of the ones I've played, I'm not terribly impressed with. There's still an oil on water kind of feeling. It almost feels like there's like an interruption. They don't quite interface. It's almost like they're sitting beside each other, and you're kind of turning and going, let me use the app. Okay, let me come back to the game now. And I'm not saying like in a physical way. I'm saying like in a thematic way, in a game flow style way. I'm not a huge video game guy or I play Clash Royale on my phone like every day because randomly like a couple of my buddies at Indie Boards and Cards played it, and so I started playing it to kind of have something. We used to go on trips all the time. We'd drive and they would constantly talk about the game, and like I was just sitting in the car not knowing what was going on. So I started playing the game to kind of be a part of the conversation, and I still play the game 4 years later. But I'm not a big video game guy to begin with, so I think maybe the app thing for me is not terribly exciting. I really like the tactile nature of games, like touching things and moving things and seeing things, and if there's like dimension to the product and stuff, I think that's really cool. And the app kind of takes that away in some ways.
Nathan says Florida's way too many. Oh, I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. I love it. Nathan says Florida has way too many animals that want to eat you or sting you or poison you. Nope. I have to tell you, that's one of those misnomers about Florida. Yes, there's snakes and mosquitoes and stuff, but honestly, like crocodiles, you have to live in a very specific area for that to even be a slight problem, and they won't bother you if you don't bother them.
Yeah, I think there's only been like 2 fatalities from alligators in like the last 80 years or something in Florida. Like there's injuries, but not fatalities.
Yes, but even that, like of injuries, it's like 99% of injuries from alligators are instigated by the human.
Did you say instigated? An instigator?
Oh my word. Yeah, but like all this stuff, you hear about these stories, but for the most part, it's again, it's just weird to me that people say that sort of thing. It's just not it's not as big of a deal as people think. I
always make. Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
It's also neat to see things like you might see a tropical bird in your backyard. That's kind of cool to me. Like you might see a parrot or something. Not a parrot, but what are the small parrots called? What do you call those things? They're like parrots, but they're smaller.
A parakeet?
Well, you might see those, yes. But anyway,
I saw an iguana walking in the middle of I-95 when I drove down to do a live play with you once, and I was like, "What the heck is that?" It was just like a iguana just marching across I-95. I'm not even kidding you. It really was.
Oh, someone asks here, is anyone a fan of hurricanes? Unfortunately, yes. It's not a good thing, I suppose, but I know that anytime there's a threat of a hurricane, if I talk to anybody who's in the landscaping business, they often are kind of like, yeah, we wouldn't mind if a hurricane came through because we'll have work for the next 6 months. And that's not, I would not want that.
That's not what you're after.
But definitely the landscape people are working for a long time after a hurricane. Let's see here. Now people are arguing about Texas versus Florida. Have you ever flown in a helicopter?
Yeah,
Where?
Florida.
Really? Like
in Orlando. My grandpa paid for me to go on a helicopter ride when I was a kid over by International Drive.
Oh yeah, that one that gets up and flies over Orlando. I keep meaning to do that because I want to record a board game breakfast from in that helicopter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been in one. That'd be cool though.
I agree.
Let's see here. Now people are talking about snakes. Favorite cartoon from your childhood?
Oh, man. You don't really want me to go down this road because there's diatribes attached to this topic.
There's diatribes attached to like most of your topics. What are you talking about?
Oh, my God. Don't get me started on Thundercats. I did like Thundercats. I went back and rewatched it as an adult, and I'm just like, what? G.I. Joe and Transformers, not GoBots. The Transformers are complex things. This is a GoBot.
Yeah,
it's a car. It's a robot.
Yes, but I'll tell you what. For a while when I was a kid, I argued with my friends that GoBots were better, not because I thought they were better, but that's what my parents bought me, because they couldn't afford the Transformers. So they bought me GoBots, and so I had arguments with my friends that GoBots were definitely better, and they just weren't.
Yeah.
Also, the cartoon. I don't know if you remember the GoBots cartoon, but they'd be like, "We have a problem," let's pick the GoBot who will go out and deal with this. And I always thought, why can't you all go out?
Yeah, there's lots of weird continuity. I always laugh at the Power Rangers where it shows, in the original Power Rangers, it shows that montage of all the dinosaurs running, but then they just turn into the big robot. I'm like, why don't you ever fight as the individual dinosaurs? Like, it's not like in Voltron, they always try and fight in the individual lions, and then the guy Alice in Wonderlands himself into a big version, and then they have to form into Voltron to tackle the problem. But they just skipped that part in what's it called, Power Rangers. It's weird. I don't know why.
Alrighty, let's see here. I had a question and then I lost it here. Man, I would have sent you an email now that says, I would like to have you back on the Dice Tower, but you're the second biggest jerk, and I'm looking for the biggest jerk. And then I would have Barnacle on.
Feeling. That feedback was a big enough blow to my ego that it made me abandon a lifelong dream. So,
did they like say it? They thought they were saying like a cool thing though to you, right? They didn't mean it as a negative thing.
Yeah, I mean, they basically said like, listen, we think you're really funny and interesting and like whatever, blah blah blah. And, but you were the second biggest, and I didn't give you this detail, but I said, well, so who was the biggest jerk? And they go, oh, this Mormon guy. And I go, what? And they're like, yeah, it's like a Mormon guy. And I'm like, a Mormon what? And he's like, oh, he's like an Olympic athlete or whatever. And I'm like, oh, but he's like, he's a way bigger jerk than you. And I'm, oh, cool. And this particular guy's been on the show like numerous times. So he's clearly an interesting enough character that they did the right thing by picking him. So.
Are there any up-and-coming designers or artists that you think will be big in the industry in the coming years?
Wow. I got to be honest with you. In the last 2.5 years, I've not signed a lot of outside designs. There's just so many games, and it's almost like I just decided to put blinders on. And I've been doing a lot more commission work where people come to me and say, well, we need this thing. And so I find one of my trusted people like Mike Mahilchik or Jesse Wright. Those are the guys I work with a lot. And we will make the thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's always going to be new people and stuff. It's hard to break in the industry, though, because even the established publishers have a hard time getting you to look at their games.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the talent pool is such now that it's probably a lot harder than it's ever been to break in. There was like there was a jailbreak when Love Letter came out, where like everybody was like, hey, this is my game. It's called Cell Phone. It's a micro game. And what you do is you put the cell phone down, and then depending on the position in which it lands, you score points. And I'm like, cool. That's not a game. And they're like, funny you say that. I just signed it and sold 50,000 units because Love Letter's popular. And the micro game thing, all these people just came in, which were more conceptors, I think, than designers. And then suddenly developers were forced to do design work. So it was like there was a big paradigm shift. And then thankfully Gloomhaven came out, and the pendulum swung the other way, where it's like, oh, you like Gloomhaven? Oh, you like Love Letter? Then you're going to love this 45-pound box of unending content.
I just was looking at a game before I did this, and I'm trying to look up the name of the game because I am forgetting the name of it, because Jeremy Howard was telling me about it. It's some adventure-style game that it's down on my table. I forget what it's called. It's some game where you're like a super, like a hero, a fantasy hero, and there are 24 different heroes and 24 different races, and then you pick one of each and put them together. And I was like, man, this is a lot of stuff in this game. It's amazing. I still don't know though that like the Love Letter thing. It's cool, but I just don't. I enjoy it, but it's like potato chips, right? It's neat, but I don't want that to be the thing I eat all the time.
Yeah, but that ship has sailed, though. I mean, like, I think, like, I distinctly remember there was, like, an 18-month period where, like, you'd show up to play games, and then people would be like, hey, while we're all arguing over whose Kickstarter arrival we're going to play this week, why don't we play this micro game? And then 3 hours later, you would have just played a slew of micro games, and then I gotta go. And then no one's played an actual, I don't want to say an actual game, like a more substantial length game, or complexity game. It's kind of like roll and writes. Roll and writes are a thing. I'm not saying I made a roll and write. I got commissioned by a company that said, "Hey, we need like a light game for a Kickstarter." So, and I was like, "How about this product?" And they're like, "Good luck. 5 years, someone's trying to give me a light game for that, and there's no way you're going to make it." 10 days later, we had a contract. So, and that's not a brag. I'm saying that's how easy I think roll and writes are to make. Like, you basically get one hook.
Somebody wrote an article about that. Was that John Zinzer maybe who said something to that effect about roll and writes are really low key for publishers to make, because you can turn them around pretty quickly. You just got to print the pad of paper and throw in some dice. So from concept to publishing, it's pretty simple, and the gameplay itself doesn't need to be deep enough, because a lot of people will buy it, play it a few times, and move along, and you've made your money off of it. I'm not saying that that's what all roll and write designers are doing, but definitely some of them are.
It's like it's like R&B music or ska music. It's like there's rules to making a roll and write. Like there's parameters, and you function within those parameters. You come up with a hook or a little change, like, oh, this is a roll and write where you do this weird. You wear a helmet while you play it, or whatever. It's instead of cards, it's got dominoes, and then that's your shtick, and then then it's like hey, did you play the roll and write with the dominoes instead of cards, right? And then someone will escalate it from there. Then there'll be like a Gloomhaven version of it. They need to make a Gloomhaven roll and write, a 45-pound ream of paper.
I know that you say that, but I could see Isaac pulling something like that off. Here's a weird question: what's your favorite board game that involves a natural disaster?
What about favorite board game that is a disaster?
No, that's a very different thing. Maybe, Atlantis Rising has Atlantis sinking in it. Same thing with Forbidden Island, but neither one of those are technically real.
I got mine.
What is it, Pandemic?
No. Aeon's End. I know
it's
I worked
on it. It's a monster coming and attacking people. That's not a natural disaster.
It's a cataclysmic thing, and there's all kinds of terrible stuff going on. There's like droughts and famine and.
Hang on, I need to get closer so I can roll my eyes. Come on now,
there you go.
That's not in the spirit of the answer. Come on, boo.
You mean like just a scientific, like a game about like earthquakes or something?
Yeah, there's not many. Well, there's that new Quake game from Stronghold Games, but I haven't played that one yet.
Let me look in the game closet real quick.
All right.
What about Dune? Does Dune count because of the Coriolis storms?
I guess. What about a real natural disaster?
I don't know. I mean, I'm looking in here and I don't own any games about natural disasters. Sorry. Hate to be a bummer.
Well, I mean, other than Pandemic, I suppose, but...
Sure, but when I play a game, I don't want to play like a simulation of something that's awful,
Yeah, I suppose, unless you're fighting against it. There's actually quite a few games, now that I think about it, that are about rebuilding after an earthquake. There's one from San Francisco.
Sure.
Lisboa's about rebuilding after an earthquake, so there's certainly some in that regard. All right, have either of you gone skydiving? And if not, would you try it? I have not.
No.
I don't know that I would. I mean, I suppose I could be really talked into it. First of all, if you were talking me into it, you would need to pay for the whole thing, because it's not cheap.
I would think I would die. I think I would I would die and I would explode and a bunch of baby owls would shoot out of my neck stump. I would not live. You know how wound up I am, Tom. There's no way you're throwing me out of a plane. I'm going to survive.
If I did it, I would want to tandem it with somebody, but it would be weird for me to tandem because that person would have to be bigger than me, right? I guess. It seems... I'm just so big that it's...
So you could go with Vlade Divac. or Matumbo.
We need a very big parachute there. I don't know. To me, I'm kind of scared about falling. I think that if I jumped out of a plane, I think after the first 10 seconds, I would probably enjoy it. But you would have to throw me out, I think, maybe.
What about, is it Forbidden Island? Isn't that kind of a natural disaster? Like there's a flood, right? Or like the water's taking things?
Yeah, I said that. Forbidden Island is in that. I mean, it's Atlantis, but that's still definitely in that thing. The game is Hexplore It. That's the one I was just testing out. I was looking through it.
Oh.
I don't know if it's a good game or not. It has a solo thing, and I was just kind of looking at it. It seems to me, I was telling my wife, it seems like I have more time. I don't feel less busy per se, but time has kind of lost meaning. And that's one of the reasons I like having things like this scheduled, because I'm taking more naps than I used to, and I'm going to bed later and getting up earlier, or getting up later. I have to really work hard to stay on a normal schedule.
Well, you know what it is? It's expectations are different, right? Like I had projects that were like, hey, if you want to turn this in like a month late, that's totally fine. We totally understand. Hey, it's like we're all working from home, so things are a little slower. So it's going to take us a little bit longer to get back to you on some stuff. So I think what it is because I mean equally, I feel as busy as I normally would, if not more.
I'm definitely with you, but I think we have some extra time. So for me, for example, I would go to like on Sunday mornings, I go to church, and I usually leave my house at 8:30. I go and I do stuff. I help out here. We do this. We practice. We do this. Blah blah blah. I get home around 1. Now we watch it online. Yeah. It starts at 10:45 and it's over at 11:30, and that's 45 minutes as opposed to the 5 hours it was before. Or my kids, I need to take them somewhere, so I take them, and that's 30 minutes to get them there, and then 30 minutes to come back, and I had to. All this stuff is out of our schedules. A lot of travel time, a lot of this other stuff. So it feels like there's more time.
Yeah, it's true. I went to the bike shop today to get something repaired. That was my big outing for the day.
I went to BJ's for the first time. I was a little worried that it would be overwhelmed because I got tired. For my family, the only buying 2 of something is weird. Like, okay, I need to buy some soup for my family. Well, 2 cans ain't good enough. So I end up buying 6 different soups. I was like, why don't I just go to BJ's? Everything's in big packs there. It makes it easier. And it was kind of dead. It was quiet, which I didn't hate. Anyway, Coralou said she started watching a HeroScape playthrough. Tom, would you ever build a map shaped like a Dice Tower logo? I don't feel like designing that. If someone else designed it, maybe. Are roll and writes dead or dying?
I don't think so.
Not for a while. Again, like I said, it's a really easy thing for a publisher to put out. And again, I'm really cautious saying that. I don't mean to disparage the work that people put into these, but they're not, for the publisher part of things, it's not nearly as hard.
They're pretty disposable in terms of the product. So, I mean, they're a good way to pass the time and quick, easy type thing. They're charming. There's like a charm factor to them too.
I guess I'm getting a little less charmed by them, but now there's the whole cut and roll and cut or whatever. I played the Clip Cut Parks, and I just got another one in where you need scissors to play it.
Yeah, I don't know.
What's your favorite board game component of all time?
The gun in Infamy. Come on.
You're never gonna let that go.
I love it.
Travis is the designer of Infamy, which isn't. Do you know what? Let's see. Do you know off the top of your head what the rating for Infamy is on Board Game Geek?
Oh God, probably terrible, like a 6 or something.
No, not the number. Like what the number it is in the Board Game Geek database.
Oh.
Like, do you think it's in the top 10,000?
I don't even know. 3,529 according to this.
Oh, did you just look it up?
Yeah,
I was
sorry.
gonna have you
Did I ruin the
guess it, you
game?
dork.
Sorry.
I gave it a 7. My rating's still there, 2014, and I didn't change it
I'll
in my 5-year.
I'll never forget.
Yeah.
New Year's Day 2014, your preview came out. It was the first time anyone had ever done a review of anything I'd ever done other than Scott Morris did a preview of the game.
Interestingly enough,
Pretty big.
Mercury Games, I haven't seen anything from them in a bit, I don't think. Well, they just did Clinic, I guess, the new version of
A
Clinic.
container.
That's true. I will tell you
Container.
this. I think they have some plastic, they're involved in a plastic company somewhere. Those container pieces are ridiculous. That's not my favorite board game component of all time. I want to say the spinner in life. I've always loved that spinner.
Yeah. I think the coolest thing I've ever seen component-wise is that tower in the Return to the Dark Tower. Like, when I watched that trailer for that Kickstarter, I felt like I knew nothing about games. I'm like, everything I've ever done pales in comparison to this cylinder that has Bluetooth and spits skulls out of it, lights up, talks to you. I'm like, all right, you win, Davio. You win all the things.
Yeah,
I like the board. I like the board, the multi-tiered board in Queen's Gambit. I think that's cool. Like the layout, the presentation of Queen's Gambit is really fun.
I should play that one live on my channel.
I got a copy. I'll battle you, dude.
But you mean like 2 copies? We're moving the pieces around on both?
Yeah.
Or I could play with Melody right here in the studio.
Yeah, but she's not me.
Amen to that. I would have to revoke my parenthood. Alrighty.
I love that game.
Oh, that's true. There's a lot of someone's. We're back to the talking about natural disasters. There's a few games about volcanoes. Volcano, downfall of Pompeii, Fireball Island. Well, that's not a natural disaster, but yeah, the other 2 are. London on fire. That's true. This is why we do these live chats, because you guys can answer the questions for us.
There you go. We are but mere catalysts.
What about a water jetpack? Would you do that?
Oh man, that just feels. To me, all that is a giant gun on my back. That's what it feels like.
It is. It's
like a
water,
gun
though.
that shoots.
It's shooting water. Yeah, I wouldn't be so
Sure,
worried.
it's still a projectile weapon strapped to my. I can play an instrument. I have no athleticism whatsoever. So I feel like the moment you put me on that, I'm going to be like, if Vine was still around, it would just be me smashing into the water repeatedly. Be like, what? Oh, did you hear what happened to Travis? No, he died he flew into a bunch of helicopter blades with the water jetpack on.
We're about to show you a video. It's really sad, but you're also going to laugh. So, all right. Pizza.
One time, let me tell you a story.
All right, here we go.
Go
Story time with Travis. Go ahead.
One time, I jokingly stuck my finger into a candle that was lit, and I didn't realize that the melted wax was like yay deep. So my hand went like all the way into this melted wax. I stood up and ran into the bathroom screaming. The bathroom floor was wet. I slipped, kicked out both of my feet. I tried to save myself by putting my hand on the counter. I knocked a brush with metal wire, like metal bristles, onto the ground. I landed on that on my back, and literally the metal brush was stuck in my shoulder blade, and I was screaming. That is why I will not go on an aqua jetpack thing.
So
I can't touch a.
When was this?
This was like not that long ago. 6 years ago.
Oh man, I think I knew you 6 years ago. That would have been fantastic.
Oh my god, it was so embarrassing. And then I had to have someone pull the brush out of my back because it was just like all the bristles were stuck in my back. So, to answer your question.
All right, let's get to Is pizza thin crust or thick?
I like thin. I have a great tolerance thing, so.
I prefer thin myself, but I do like stuffed. So, but I wouldn't want to eat it all the time. Actually, I like that pizza. What was that pizza we had in St. Louis? That was pretty good. At the Geekway?
Oh, I know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the name of it, but yes, I remember.
Travis,
I'll
do
have
you
to
play
think
any
about that.
online games?
Clash Royale, that's it.
I don't know what that is. What is it?
It's like a tower defense game. It's like Supercell. It's really good. It's really, really, really good. It's super fun. I'm sure there's better ones out there, but at this point, I've spent so much time on it that there's no way. You know, it's a little tower defense game where you make a deck of 8 kind of creatures and you run around and you put them out and they're kind of automated in terms of what they do. You build up resources and there's two flank towers and a central tower, and you're trying to either in 3 minutes be the one who blows up their most of their towers, or if you blow up their central tower, you just automatically win the game. It's good.
You played a lot?
Oh my god, I played every day. I used to be insanely obsessed with it, and then one of Lindsay's kids kind of dared me to stop playing it, and I stopped playing it for about 9 months, 6 months, and then one day she just looked at me. She goes, "You want to check your account?" And I was like, "Fine." And then I looked, and I've been playing it ever since again. But before I used to, it has all that check-in nonsense where you get like bonuses for activity and stuff, and I don't do any of that stuff anymore. I just kind of play it a couple of times as a way to pass the time.
Alrighty, well, we're coming to the end here. Let's see here. People are talking to each other. Bubble dice, we're talking about different components. Press the bubble popper down. I still wish someone would put that in an actual real good game, like the popper from Trouble.
Yeah, the Pop-O-Matic. Well, it's patented.
Is it?
You can make a version of it.
I'm sure the patent's run out by now.
Maybe.
I mean, that's like an old thing. That's from the 70s, right? That's got to run out.
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything. You just find a way to do a different version of it. Like you change some small material.
Oh, I would want a better one anyway. A lot of them were very bad. You'd press the popper and it wouldn't barely flip the die over.
You push down and it shatters into your hand. Ah!
That's you. Does that happen too? And then you run into the bathroom and you fall on another brush?
Yeah. Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, folks, we appreciate you coming and joining us. Travis, you got anything you want to talk about before we head out?
Yeah. So my company's going to be announcing something pretty neat here soon, which is Dream Pop is partnering with Game Trays, the accessory company, who's worked on, their very first project they worked on was Mechs versus Minions, rather. We're going to be working with Noah to turn Game Trays into a publishing house, working on the very first game right now, which is kind of a love letter to Mandalorian, the TV show The Mandalorian. So it's a sci-fi spaghetti western style sandbox game, and we're really excited about it. We're going to have a lot more information here soon, but Game Trays will be making board games, and I'll be helping them do it. So
that's interesting. Yeah, Game Trays is one of those things that when it's in a game, it's like adds 1 to the game rating right there. I just saw there's stuff in the halls of the Mountain King. Great trays they made for that. And of course, Mechs vs. Minion. That was the first time. Well, it was their first thing they'd ever done, and it blew my mind how good those trays were. One of the small things about that kind of just boggled me was that they had these minions that had different poses, and yet you could put them in any of the slots, which I really wish other companies would do, because I get so tired of playing the what figure goes in what slot game at the end of a game sometimes. I usually end up throwing those inserts away.
The centerpiece of this particular game that we're working on has a tower, and while it's not the Return to the Dark Tower, it's a cube drop tower, but it's so complicated. It's awesome. Everything you do in the game puts cubes in or takes cubes out, and you're bounty hunters looking for targets, and you're trying to get leads, so you have to dig deeper and deeper into the layers of this thing. there's little drawers. You twist it, you turn it to try to get stuff to fall out, but maybe you'll get hurt in the process, or you'll make some enemies, or you'll find some money or upgrades, all kinds of stuff. So it's like this really interesting physical cube tower thing that there's nothing like it. It's going to be really neat.
All right.
And of course, all kinds of ridiculous other stuff. So because Game Trace makes cool stuff. So.
All righty, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Travis, thank you for coming on board with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Tomorrow, folks, live at 2 o'clock, Roy is doing another showdown between games where you can be involved and vote for the game you want to see win. That game will win great prizes or not. Then tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, another chat. And in the meantime, tons and tons of, not tons, but lots of reviews and things are coming up for y'all to see and watch. And we hope you enjoy them. But anyway, until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
And I'm Travis Chance.
Have fun gaming, guys. Stay safe.